Yeah, this is a tale, oh yeah, a tale of two hygienists. So there might be only one, bringing the best of dental knowledge, and we do it all with ease. We cover oral health and screening, and preventing gum disease. We're gonna do a lot of learning, and have a little bit of fun working at the dentist. A tale of two hygienists.
Welcome back, everyone. Look, this isn't going to be a normal episode. I know it's Wednesday and you're probably expecting our normal episode number 351 to come out. Unfortunately, the files that we've been receiving from Texas Imaging didn't quite make it on time to be edited. And so rather than having you all wait, we just decided to transpose what was going to be the episode for Friday and make that on Wednesday. And then if you really want to hear the episode 351, it'll come out on Friday still. So if you're a diehard listener and you are just here for the CE and the knowledge, make sure you come back on Friday because that's when the episode's going to drop. But for those of you sticking around to listen to this episode, look, it's just going to be different. We learned about this one fundraising event several months ago. And essentially they were raising money for people in the community, in their local community, who had some illnesses or there was an accident and they could really use some help paying bills. And you've heard before where they have, community fundraisers for, selling cookies and bake sales and all that kind of stuff. Well, this is almost no different, except for it was a testicle festival. As we were learning about this, the energy from the organizers was just so darn contagious. Every time they explained the next step, hey, this is how we prepare this is how we do this, I just kept feeling like, oh my gosh, we have to go to this. So of course we made the decision that, hey, come September, we're heading into Topeka, we're going to go do this. They had me so convinced that eating bull testicles was normal and delicious that the whole community just did it without giving a second thought. So in this episode, you'll hear Brittany and myself, who attended, talk to Daniel Hulbert, who seems to just make it on all of our travel shows, about our experience. It's a little bit different. It's a little bit more fun. I think you're going to really like it. If you want to support this group for next year, just send me an email, andrew@atale2hygienist.com. I will make sure that you get connected with these amazing human beings who are doing great things for their local community. Or, maybe you want to replicate this in your own community. I will definitely get you connected with them and they can tell you their trade secrets on how to do this effectively. I had so much fun. I think you're really going to enjoy this episode about our Testicle Festival experience.
A tale of two hygienists.
All right, listeners, welcome back into a bonus episode of A Tale of Two Hygienists. We're very excited to bring this interesting and different episode. We're going to talk today about a thing called a Testicle Festival. And the name, I when I first heard about it, I was just really, really intrigued. I'd never heard of one before. And then now that we've experienced it, and this is obviously after the fact, we're looking around like they're everywhere. So this isn't actually, a lot of you have probably heard about these before, but joining me today, I brought Brittany with me to the festival. And so she experienced it. And we have Daniel Hulbert coming back, who seems to be on all of our travel type episodes. So welcome for both of you into the show.
Thanks.
Happy to be here.
All right. So where do we start? Actually, let's ask that. Daniel, do you have any questions about this? I did send you some pictures, but do you have any just burning questions right off the top?
So I want to know how you actually found out about this and how, midway through September, you find yourself in Topeka. Is that right?
Yeah. It's just a little bit outside of Topeka, Kansas. So what had happened was I work with, I think we're going to try and keep company names out of this as much as we can, just we don't offend people because we didn't, ask a lot of permissions for some of this conversation. But I'm affiliated with a group of really amazing, hardworking individuals, and they were talking about this event that's a fundraiser and all of the good that they've done in their community. And I'm like, okay, well, that's really cool that you guys do fundraising. Tell me more about this. And they said, well, it's a testicle festival. And I'm like, well, okay, well, let's explain what those words mean, because that is, it sounds painful, whatever it is. And then they just, when someone talks to you about something that they're super passionate about, it's in their heart, they just love doing it. That's what was happening. And so I'm like, okay, well, how can we be a part of this? And essentially, they have people in their community that, due to some circumstances, usually illness or accidents or something like that, they need to raise money and pay for medical bills. And so they said, well, if you want to help out, then maybe you can donate and be a part of this. And so Brittany and I came in with a Tele2 hygienist and decided, hey, this is a good cause. Let's see what we can do. So that's how I found out about it.
Right on.
And then Brittany, I called her, I think that same day, and I said, hey, you and Johnson need to join me on this journey. Do you
I
remember
think you
that?
actually were like, Google Testicle Festival, we're gonna go. And I was terrified. I was like, I'm not Googling that. Like, I don't want to know what's gonna come up.
It'll be on your browser
but-
search history for forever.
Exactly. And then ended up learning more about it. And Andrew has admitted such at this point, but really invited me, hoping that my husband Johnson would go.
100%. Not that I didn't want you to be there. I wanted you also to be there.
No, I'm kidding. Unfortunately, Johnson couldn't make it, but having gone through the ins and outs now of the process, he would have been all about it. So
he would have been. And Daniel, I wanted you to come. I wanted like the whole world to come to this thing, and we're all gonna have to do it next time, because it was just such a great event. So I think last time, for the listeners that did listen to like the Philippines episode, it was a little bit, and Brittany pointed this out earlier, a little bit long winded. So we'll kind of jump right into like maybe the play by play, and then Daniel, if you have any questions or whatever in between there, we can get it. But Brittany, do you mind giving the play by play
of the weekend?
Yeah, just kind of like what we did. Yeah, we arrived, we did all the stuff.
Yeah, absolutely. So we arrived and then hit the road. It's outside of Topeka, near the closest town would be Paxico, Kansas. And so just outside of there, Paxico is a little stop sign, not stoplight, little town. Went outside there, pull up to this beautiful church, and I was kind of joking with Andrew, thinking, oh, I don't know if this is appropriate, but this church lets them use the kitchen, and it's this giant facility, which makes sense because come to find out at the end of the weekend that they served over 500 people. So you need a big kind of industrial kitchen, and that's what this church had. So Andrew and I go inside. We went ahead of time for prep day. And I was thinking, we're going to set up tables, chairs, maybe some banners, tablecloths, that kind of thing. No, all that was already done. And all that was left to do was prep the mountain oysters, or quote, nuts, as the locals like to refer to them. Not balls. We called them balls, and we got some weird looks. So
it was so hard not to be like, yeah, these are bull's balls. Like, what, they're balls. They're not. They're nuts. That's what they say.
Nuts, if you want to be down with the lingo, nuts. So they come in these big boxes of frozen bull testicles, and they were explaining to us that if you were going to do this on your farm, if you're a rancher, that's where it's really popular, that you would use testicles from the calves, but due to the fact that they're serving the public, it all needs to be, FDA,
USDA, I think.
Yeah, USDA certified, and therefore they are bull testicles, which each individual side, if I put both of my fists together, is how large they were. They were huge, but they come in these big frozen boxes. Step one is putting them in water to de-thaw them and break them apart. And so, Andrew, that's where that was your first job of many, but
Which, by the way, again, I also didn't know exactly what we were going to be doing. Like, they did tell me what prep day was going to be, and I knew there was going to be handling of nuts. I didn't realize how big the operation was going to be, because how many boxes were there, Brittany? 15 or 20 of those boxes, probably.
I know all together it was 350 pounds. So
yeah,
a lot.
Wow.
and they're all like just frozen together in these boxes. So I didn't realize that was like part of the process that we were going to be doing. So it was a shock. But yeah, you get in there in these industrial sinks, and you have this block of ice, and you just slowly try and like take one nut off the chunk of frozen ones. Then you pass them over, and then Brittany was at the next station doing her thing.
Yeah. So once you get an individual one, you have a scalpel and you run it along basically a perimeter of the oval to slice the membrane. And then you had what were, I think, are used for descaling or skinning fish, maybe, or basically pliers that help you get a good purchase on the membrane, and you would peel it off of the nuts and then place those peeled ones into a bucket. From there, they go to the slicing station, which was Andrew's second job. And you can talk about that.
Yeah, I mean, it's a meat slicer. And so by the time that there were lots of other people that did all the heavy lifting. I just kind of came in at the very end and was kind of helping out. And I think they want to give me a chance to do everything. So like, hey, let's watch this city boy, like try and figure out how to use the equipment and chop up some nuts. And so, I mean, it's very, they have the safeguards on there, and you just run it through like you would if you're slicing like deli meats and stuff like that. So it didn't end up being like a difficult job, but it was like a lot of nuts going through there. And then on my part of it, I just had pass it down to the next station, which was actually basically just sectioning those already sliced ones into smaller pieces, into halves, basically.
Mm-hmm. And then they run through a meat tenderizer. At this stage, they're probably, I think they said like 3/4 inch thick is the sweetness, or like the sweet spot. If you do it thinner, it can be like chewing on a breaded leather belt, is how it was described. So, they're kind of thick. And then you run them through, they had I would say, industrial meat tenderizer that it goes through twice. And so from that point, that's kind of your day one. They put all the tenderized meat into bins to, soak overnight basically and release some liquid. And then the next day when we came, it was really a great process to watch. They essentially drain them out of the buckets and then soak them in buttermilk. They have this special breading batter that I think is kind of like a secret recipe, was the consensus that I was getting, but it smelled delicious. And then they get fried in these they had multiple fryers going, and they also serve French fries, like the real deal, homemade. They had a fry cutter there that they run through twice. So they're twice fried French fries, which is similar to the Five Guys French fries, is how they were explained to us, but they were delicious.
Yeah, I mean, and I want to be very, very clear that we weren't really a part of this bigger operation. Like, we were very much standing along the sidelines watching probably at least 30 individuals who have been doing this for, is this the 8th year that they've been doing it now, Brittany, right? Who like have it down like pat. And then they were just kind enough to let us kind of jump in here and there, kind of just helping out a little bit. Like day 2, we didn't really do too much. We kind of, made some little breadcrumbs, smaller ones, and that's about it. But the bigger takeaway I think I had is when it went through, what was it, 4 people that were on the drained buttermilk batter station, and then there's runners as well.
Mm-hmm.
So the fryers were outside, and the gentleman outside, there was 5 or 6 of them. We would go out there and they would just talk to us like we were part of the family. They would tell us stories. They would say, hey, this is what we're looking for. This is the behind the scenes behind it. It was probably the most welcomed I felt in any organization on day 1. It was the most incredible thing. And so once they had everything fried up, then they had a runner that also went between the already cooked things to the front to take it up there. Then that person would also say, okay, we need more nuts or we need more fries. And they had like little timers, individual timers per fryer, so that they knew like exactly, hey, that it's cooked to perfection every time. The organization behind all of this, I mean, it must be a bit of a headache, but they have things down to the second, which is really incredible. So at this point, okay, we'd seen the process kind of get going. I think at 5 o'clock or so, people started arriving. 5:30, I think, is when they're going to try and start feeding people. And you have this long, like if you've been in any sort of like a gymnasium at a church or a cultural hall, or even some of the places like at parks and things like that, they have like gathering spaces. It's usually like a big rectangle, and it was out the door for 2 hours straight. And so there were, hundreds of these people just coming through, and it's a pretty fast process to get, just grab your plate and move through. They also had pulled
Buffet
pork.
style. Yeah.
They had baked beans. They had, of course, beverages was another station over on the side.
All sorts of homemade desserts.
Yeah, which by the way, I forgot to try.
By the time we got there, they were out.
Were they
They
done?
were well received, but they looked delicious.
That's why. Yeah. I mean, they pre-made a bunch of the horseradish, stuff, and they put them in individual bottles for a lot of these things. It's Daniel, I'm telling you, man, that it was one of the most incredible, well organized, well run events. They also had a silent auction and a live band, so you have to coordinate all of that as well. Yeah, it was just good. It was really good.
Yeah, you texted me a video of the band playing. Was it just the one that played all night?
Yeah. So here's another thing. So
Wow.
there's a story behind the band. So the lead singer is from a town over. He wasn't originally from there. I think he's originally from Topeka, but then he moved around a little bit and he ended up settling in that area. Now the band was from Texas, and it's a band that he used to run with or something like that, or maybe they still are working together somehow. But they all came up, and so he's an amazing singer, very diverse in what he's his range was really good. But even when it came to some of the country songs, the backup singers, or they weren't backup singers, the other band members ended up taking the lead on some of the vocals, and they were all amazing. It was so well done. And you could tell that the people knew who he was. They were interacting really well. People were out dancing, and it just, you could just tell it was it's a locals event, right?
Mm-hmm.
And also in town, which we forgot to mention, there was the Blues Fest was also in town. So I think that probably helped drive a lot of people that way too.
Yeah. Both events were very well attended, and the main vocalist was phenomenal. I knew that the band had been sent from Texas. Someone's sponsorship contribution. They had paid to have the band there, which is great. And I had just assumed that the lead vocalist was from there. So to find out that he was a local and really involved in the community was neat to see as well.
And everyone has a story, right? We were just kind of, again, sitting on the sideline, and people would come up and talk to us, and they would say, okay, you see that gentleman there, he's an amazing shot, right? That was one of the boys. He's one of the best shooters that we've seen, all this. And we heard a lot about the family that we were with, kind of that had invited us out. They're super giving, super generous, but they have some really amazing stories as well. And they just openly shared with us. And it was just, I don't know. I guess I think about here in my Connerton community here in Florida, it's nice. People are kind, but it's not like that. It's not like your family. It's there's second and third generations, fourth generation, fifth generations of people that have been living there. And so they know everybody. I don't know. It's just nice.
Yeah.
We didn't talk about, yeah.
Go ahead.
We didn't talk about the taste.
Yeah, that was a question I was going to have.
So I don't know, Brittany, you describe what you thought the taste was.
I'm going to try and describe it. I was afterwards looking up the nutrition facts because I was curious, and they had a perfect definition in there. So I'm going to try and not use that definition. But originally, to me, it was like a chicken tender, like the best chicken tender you've had. Actually, they were delicious. I was shocked because there is a little bit of a smell when you're prepping them. That
we gotta talk about that later.
Yeah. And so I was pretty terrified actually. Night one, I was like, oh, if they taste like they smell, this is not gonna be good. And I knew I'll try anything once except for balut, as we learned. But but no, they were delicious. The batter that they use is so good, and it really makes them. But also, they were really tender. They weren't chewy at all. Texturally, they were very pleasing. If someone had just at an event passed hors d'oeuvres had given it to me, you would never ever guess that that's what it was.
Mm-hmm. I would say I mean, you're exactly right. It'd be like a chicken tender or almost like a chicken nugget. The only thing is it doesn't flake like cooked chicken does. So that part was the only thing, and it doesn't feel off in your mouth. It's fine. But it's almost more like a ham or a luncheon meat or something like that. I think as far as that part of the texture is. but when you chew into it, like it breaks apart just fine. And it's just that batter was so good. Like you could have used that batter for a lot of things and eaten a lot of weird things, and it would have been just fine, I'm sure.
Yep.
Gosh, we got to talk about the smell though, Brittany.
Oh.
Okay, so here's the one thing that they didn't tell us until we got there, which is fine. But they're like, hey, just heads up, if you're going to be handling them, there's some gloves over here, this and that, because that smell is going to linger on your hands, probably all night.
For days was how it was described.
Oh.
And so I was like, okay. So I wore gloves and I did the thing. Of course, I was also working with like cold, like, frozen nuts. And so I want to make sure that I didn't freeze my hands either. And so I was wearing gloves the whole time, but things splash. I mean, I got, splashed on my shirt, face, and all that kind of stuff. And it's just the way all of us got it. All of us that were in that line. And it was so bad. So we went back to the hotel and, I went to my room. I took a shower. I like made sure I got my hair. I washed my face like really, really well multiple times in the shower. And when I came out, I felt pretty okay, except for I could still smell something. I'm like, oh, it's probably my clothes. So I wrapped them up in a like the laundry bag that's hanging in your closets at the hotels, and I put it to the side. And I texted Brittany multiple times. I'm like, I still smell it. I still smell it. I don't know what's wrong. It's probably stuck in my nostrils at this point. But when I left out of my room and I would come back later, I didn't smell it. So I think it's mostly in my head. I think that they set me up for like, hey, this is going to be an unpleasant experience, and I think I made it into an unpleasant experience. But that smell did linger for quite a bit. I told Allison when I got home, I was like, hey, when we wash these clothes, don't take them out of the bag with your hands. Just dump them into the washer, because I can't promise you that it's not going to smell bad for a while. So that was,
I think, have surprised her and not said anything, and her just been like, "What were you doing in Kansas?"
No, I love her too much. I wouldn't let that happen. But that was truly like the only, like, if you could think of a negative thing. Well, Daniel, you and I, we actually drove. It's not that far from Wamego or whatever that place is that we did the Wizard of Oz thing.
Oh, sweet, the Wizard of Oz museum. Yeah.
Yeah. So it's not far from there. So if you remember kind of like what that looked like, and it's almost the same time of year that we did it. We were in August, this is September, but it's beautiful country. As we were kind of driving through, probably a lot of places like in Idaho as well. There's corn, there's pea vines, I think is what we were seeing too. It was just very beautiful country, and I don't know. I sat back, like we were both reflecting at the very end of the night. We were just like looking at everyone, and we're just like, you know what? This was the best choice to do that this weekend. Like you couldn't think of a better thing to do. You're serving a population, you're really helping, you're contributing, but they were just so dang welcoming. It was awesome.
Yeah. They kept
Nice.
a gentleman that was helping with the fires. He had described it to me as grassroots, fundraising, where they know the people whose families it is going. And it was 5 families, many had cancer, one was a ranching incident, and another terminal illness. And so, to be able to see people in your community that have a need and be able to help them and their family in those hard times was really cool. And you can see the community comes out for it. There weren't 500 people in Paxico, Kansas, yet they come from Topeka, and I'm further, we were there. So it was neat to see. And every year it's a different family and or different group of families, I should say, which is really cool.
So I think what we'll do is next year, I would love to continue to like be a part of doing something with them if we can every year. I'm not sure that we can actually physically make it every year, just kind of depending on what our schedules look like. But if you're listening to this and it's 2023 before September, and you want to make a donation, then let us know. Just send me an email, andrew@tell2hygienist.com, and I'll let you know how you can kind of make your donation reach the right people. It is a 501c3, so it will count for all of your charitable contributions. But it's a great cause. It was a perfect event. If events could be perfect, it really is. So, and then Daniel, I expect you next year maybe let's see if we can roll and get you eating some bull nuts.
Sounds like a plan. I'm a little hesitant, but hearing you guys describe the tastiness, it makes my fears a little bit lessened. So
How many times have you tried balut?
uh I think you and I tried it twice, but I don't really trust our cooking skills because I think they're
No.
supposed to be soft boiled, and we hard boiled those things big
Yeah.
time.
Yeah. Well, I mean, the fact that you tried that, like I think that speaks that's way worse. I would look forward to another like event like this compared to eating balut. So,
Oh no, and it's not like we tried them once. Like,
oh, we
you
ate
know,
them like
oh
multiple
yeah, no, we
times.
ate them, like, and we had them fresh out of the fryer, and then when the night calmed down and we made our way through the buffet line ourselves, they were on our plates. It wasn't like oh, people are watching you, try it, have it once. Like, they were delicious, so we had multiple, many.
Yeah. I dipped it in ranch. I tried some a little bit in ketchup. I didn't like the ketchup one as much. The ranch one was
Cocktail
okay, but
sauce.
I don't do cocktail sauce. I wouldn't do that. And I wouldn't do the horseradish sauce
Horseradish,
either.
yeah.
So and then I tried it plain. So I had 3 versions of it, and the plain was actually the best. Ranch was a second best. But anyway, Dong, any last questions? Any thoughts that you have for us before we close this thing out?
I did have one question. You said something about beverages. Were there a lot of people that need a little bit of liquid courage in order to partake?
Zero in order to partake. But lots of liquid beverages, liquid courage beverages were
Accompanying.
being had. Well,
Okay.
I mean, you just think about this place, and we have more stories we can tell you off air, but you think about this place where it's like everyone has, their beer in a can in a koozie. It's like every adult had one. And I'm like, oh, okay. And then there was an area for some harder stuff too, in case you wanted to really have a good time there dancing around or doing whatever. But yeah, good question. All right.
Sounds
Well,
like a great time.
everyone, thank you so much for listening to this. Again, let us know if you want to contribute or help out some of these people next year.
Hi.
Yeah, this is a tale, oh yeah, a tale of 2 hygienists. So there might be only one, bringing the best of dental knowledge, and we do it all with ease. We cover oral health and screening, and preventing gum disease. We're gonna do a lot of learning, and have a little bit of fun working at the dentist. A tale of 2 hygienists.